Hey, it's Bree. Before we get into the show, just a note. There's some explicit language in this episode. Welcome to CityCast Denver. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Denver Post arts reporter John Wenzel, welcome back.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
And comedian Miriam Moreno, welcome back as well.
Hello. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited because you just told us that you ate hot Cheetos for breakfast. So,
you know, my habits haven't changed since middle school, and it's But I'm taking vitamin D now and B12, so I think that's good.
You're making up for it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, today we're talking about everything from the brand new Lucifer's First Radio Music Fest, which is going head to head with the long-running Underground Music Showcase, the ongoing fight over noise at the Ford Amphitheater, and a little secret third thing that will be a secret to me and John that Miriam is bringing to us later in the show. But let's start with UMS versus Lucifer's First Rodeo. So, after insinuating pretty heavily that UMS 2025 would be its last, the festival announced in early February that it was, in fact, still alive, but it was leaving South Broadway for an area in Five Points that is called Rhino. And then, just a few weeks later, a new festival staked its claim on South Broadway called Lucifer's First Radio. And it recently shared that it will, in fact, go down on the same weekend. The festival has already dropped its initial lineup of 30 local acts, including some longtime performers and heavy hitters, Blank Slate, Los Mogochetes, Wheelchair Sports Camp, Cella and the Charm, Blue Book, Spells, so many more. Many acts that I think would definitely have played the UMS. John, what did you think when you saw this lineup drop last week?
I thought it was really interesting. The death of it was overplayed. And I blame myself a little bit, too, because I'm in the news media, and that was a good narrative. And honestly, a true one, we thought at the time. But, to see it come back in Rhino, and then, like you said, rapid fire, a few weeks later, Lucifer's First Rodeo gets announced. And, I think it's really interesting. And I think that there's a lot of between the lines and a lot of assumptions and projection around it. So it'll be interesting to see how people react to it. I think Rhino and the current UMS probably have a lot of thoughts about it too. So but I think it's a great idea. I think it's really interesting and for various reasons.
I agree.
Well, why did they even say they weren't going to do it? Is it faking your own death to get more attention? Type of situation.
I mean, I think there was just part of it was, as far as was sort of reported or that we could see, UMS was maybe not really, it wasn't making its money back.
Yeah.
So it was sort of financially in a weird place. I think, the festival had grown quite a bit. I don't know. John, what did you, I took from it that financially the prospects ticket sales were down.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge indicator.
Youth on Record joined and bought a stake with Two Parts, which is the company that has owned it for a while, last year, and a couple 3 years ago rather, and they did some cool stuff, made it more all ages, more sober, more equitable for artists. But this is not their business, and it lost money, and they got out basically. And Jamie Duffy, their director, blamed various things. And frankly, I just think it got away from him. I think there was a way to make it work, but it wasn't with them. It was like, it's gone. But actually people at the time were careful to say it's not dead forever. Like I said, that was kind of a narrative. But to answer your question, Miriam, I feel like, the current UMS director, who's the owner of Two Parts, Keenan Stoner, he addressed that in an interview with me. He was like, I swear to God, we weren't just playing dead for publicity. But, I think there's that perception to some extent.
I did see that they pay their artists, which is not something that happens with comedy. So I was like, I can't even believe they get paid. But they pay really well. And I think the Lucifer's First Rodeo is also trying to pay people $500, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I'd do it for drink tickets, but
no, I mean, I think that's been a long-running contention in the music scene in general. I think over the years, it's been a lot of turmoil, not just with UMS, but in general, how folks are getting paid, who's getting paid what. I will say, just from having a partner who's playing Blues for his first rodeo, he said they're paying really well. Like you said, I think $300 to $500 was what they projected. I don't know if that's more for headliners, but I do know that also was a component of UMS when Youth on Record stepped into it. Was they were really about the treatment of artists, but that doesn't always jive with the economics of a festival, right? I mean, you can pay people a lot, but if you're not making that money back in ticket sales and merch and other things, it gets harder and harder to do that.
You got to pay the venues and you got to pay the staff and all the volunteers if they're doing it for free. Great, but it takes so much to run it.
It's essentially, my sense is, I talked a little bit over email with Gian Davis, who's one of the founders and a local poet in the band. Clementine was right, and my sense is,
or the founder of Lucifer's First Rodeo.
That's correct. Yeah, co-founder is my impression. And, Clementine was right as playing it. I'm sure, other friends of theirs will have a showing. But I don't get the sense they're trying to make money at all. I think they just want to do something cool. But they also get, I think to some extent they also get their cake and eat it too. Because they're very vocal about this is not counter-programming. They don't want to blacklist any of these performers or future opportunities with Rhino. They want to play nice with the Rhino BID, Business Improvement District, which is now helping finance the UMS. But you can read between the lines. You know what I mean? It is counter-programming, even though they're denying it. It's like you let other people say that.
It's the same weekend.
Yeah.
I do think as someone who has booked things, they probably thought UMS wasn't going to happen. They wanted to take that spot. They confirmed all the artists for that weekend, and then they were gonna say they were gonna do it that weekend, and then UMS was like, "Oh, we're gonna do it," and they're like, "Well, we just confirmed all these people." I almost don't think there's malice behind it.
No, I don't think so either.
Well, I don't want to insinuate that it's malice necessarily, but it does touch on this thing that has been a long-running sort of undercurrent of the music scene here, which is the DIY versus the more seen as corporate entities. That has always been a thing, at least in my 40 years and being part of this community, is like there's always sort of been a counter-programming to all kinds of things that people see as like not as local, or I don't know. I mean, again, I'm probably putting a little bit too much into it, but as a person that has also produced a music festival on zero money, there was definitely that aspect of like, we want to make the festival that we want to make. And part of it is because we're not seeing ourselves being represented in these other more sort of corporate festivals. I mean, historically, too, we could look at this is generally the time frame that UMS happens, barring the pandemic of it all and some following years where I think it was in like September. July has always been at least for the last, 10 years. So I would say, maybe they did just see an opening like, oh, if UMS isn't coming back, let's just plug in there. But it's hard to not see it as going up directly against each other. John, do you think that what do you think the audience, do you think the audience cares? Is there going to be a impact on turnout for either one, or people just, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think about that?
That's a good question. And I think that's always changing. I think for some people it's a zero-sum game. They can go to one festival or another, but they're not going to go to two. But I think if you're in the scene, if you're an insider, scene stir, hipster, critic, local musician, you're probably going to go to South Broadway because that's the more artistically credible, that's how they're pitching themselves. They make a point in the press release to say all DIY venues, DIY local bands, which is separate from Rhino, which they're, some critics are casting as corporate. Some of these venues are going to be, very well funded. The UMS never really used Seventh Circle that I'm aware of. So Lucifer's favorite rodeo expanding to Manos Sagrados in Aurora.
D3.
D3. This is a fairly expansive thing, but I do think there's a chance they could forge their own identity and that there could be a give and take lineup wise between these things. It's possible they complement each other, but at the moment the narrative is that they're in opposition.
It does sound like UMS is going to be corporate, because when I think of like Rhino, it's 5 Points, but Rhino sounds like scooters and breweries and just a lot of scooters. But I wouldn't want to go down there, and there's barely any parking as it is. And like, I don't know, it's more accessible, I think, on Broadway.
Yeah. Well, Broadway's like, it's the Baker neighborhood. It has this identity. And Rhino's like, it's not a neighborhood, It's a business improvement. It's a, artistic designation that spans Curtis Park and 5 Points. And you're right. I mean, they'd like to be known as a neighborhood, but, the music there is not, it's Mission Ballroom. It's AEG. It's stuff like that. It's not, unless you want to go far enough afield, and I don't know, I guess Larimer's probably in the middle of there too, but people criticize them as being AEG because their owner is a AEG booker. And so that is the perception, is that it is going to be more corporate. Also, the bid is throwing like $1 million behind it. The UMS budget last year, I think, was 1.4 million. And the bid's going to give them $250,000 every year for like the next 3 years, in addition to bolstering this year's budget. Gian Davis, who's helping put Bluesverse together, I'm guessing does not have $1.4 million.
No.
But he has integrity.
Well, I mean, I think...
that ain't worth shit. That ain't worth shit.
Well, and that's sort of the insinuation behind... We've been talking about the term DIY, do-it-yourself, which is really a sort of... it can be kind of a vague ethos that venues... put their name into, that bands or artists will put themselves behind, which is sort of saying it's kind of almost an old school mentality of like, we're not corporate. And I don't think the UMS has ever tried to say it was DIY. I know it was truly sort of a grassroots thing at the beginning, obviously, but also there have been different people behind the scenes there for years that have wanted to grow it into a huge festival, and to be a viable festival often means to not be DIY. And I think it's just two very different tracks of thinking when it comes to festivals. And both of those kinds of festivals can thrive, and their metrics for success often are very different,
Like, maybe they should lean into that. Like, if UMS wants to have that corporate money and like bring people out of state to come see the Denver music scene, like that could be something. And maybe the Blucifer one is like a cool, hip thing. I've never been to UMS. I'm just going to admit that.
Oh, you haven't?
It seems so overwhelming. Like, I didn't know where it was.
It's like the South by Southwest of Denver. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I worked at a Mexican restaurant, Adelita's Agave on 9th and Lincoln. And one year when I was like waiting tables there, we hosted as one of the venues. And people came in and out, and I had to like upsell margaritas. So that was my only experience, but it was really stressful because people weren't trying to buy food. They were like trying to watch this band.
Yeah. I used to run sound at venues for the UMS. Bands didn't get paid. It was kind of like Reverb, our old music site. It was a volunteer for free tickets. But this was like the early to mid 2000s, where people weren't, and we should have been paying them, of course. We're the Denver Post. But Miriam, I'm just curious real quickly, you're a veteran of a lot of comedy festivals and shows. High Plains Comedy Fest typically takes place along South Broadway. Is that apples to oranges with UMS? I know you haven't been to UMS, but it's not as big, but it's still it's a economic driver, right? For these bars thrive on selling drinks.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think so. And I mean, my experience is like, it's just very organized. You can hop around, and I'm sure that's the same with UMS.
Yeah, it's like the one wristband format.
Yeah, but something about it, I just like never got into watching music locally, which I feel like a total piece of shit. Okay, you guys are calling me out, putting me on the spot.
No, I mean, you're part of a different creative scene, and obviously we overlap in some ways. But I think I want to ask something to sort of pony on with what John's saying, which is like High Plains is like also known as this South Broadway entity. Has the comedy scene ever had this sort of inner turmoil where folks are like, we want to do something else because High Plains feels too big or whatever. Because I wouldn't ever say that it's corporate. It's run by people, comedians.
Like people I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's corporate at all. I do think it's still very DIY. Like the people that volunteer, like everybody knows everybody. One thing is they do bring comedians from out of state. So it's not everybody that's just in Colorado. But the turmoil has been, some people feel excluded from being on the lineup, which obviously it sucks, but there's like limited days and spaces. So there has been like other little comedy festivals, like there's Boulder Comedy Festival, which is pretty good. It's in June. And then there's Rise Comedy Festival and all these other little things that are popping up. I think as like not trying to compete with it at all, but just like, hey, we want to include other people that maybe don't get their shine. But yeah. I don't think it's caused any turmoil though, like except for maybe ego, but
which also plays in, believe me, to music festival drama and music scene drama as well.
Oh, when you don't get booked on something, it's a personal attack for sure.
Yeah.
For me anyway.
And that's different for sure, because actually UMS is still taking, you can still apply as an artist if you want through the end of the week. And they haven't announced any of their lineup yet, nor have tickets gone on sale. Lucifer's First Rodeo has 4-day wristbands on sale for $69. But before we move on, John, I want to talk about the money piece one more time, because UMS was losing money when it was on South Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that, or what could make Lucifer's First Rodeo successful where UMS maybe failed?
I think if it did find, it doesn't have to go corporate to have support and partners. You know, if you're going to sell a beer at a festival, you got to have a nonprofit partner in this town. So if they find the right nonprofit partners, not necessarily deep-pocketed people, but people who can give in-kind services, who can support some things, restaurants who are willing to do deals or specials instead of just raising prices, I think they could do okay. I still don't think there's a lot of potential for them to make money in their current, what I understand to be their current format. But I do think you could, make it self-sustaining. You could break even. And frankly, the credibility aspect is a big thing they seem to be pushing too. All DIY, all local. Some of these all ages and underground venues. I mean, that's great. Like there's very little downside. I do wonder if it's going to be all that diverse. The local scene gets real white real fast when you don't look hard.
I was just thinking that.
And UMS,
I wonder.
Yeah,
that's been a criticism of UMS in the past.
Well, and UMS, to their credit, in recent years, their bookers, their owners, they've gotten way more diverse. You know, Denver was so white and so duty in the 2000s and 2010s, and it's gotten better, but it's we still have a ways to go. And UMS was helping push that, and I don't expect that to change. I would expect to see more non-white dudes playing folky indie rock and shit like that in Rhino that I would at the UMS, unfortunately, or than Lucifer's at this moment.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Hi, I'm David Plotz. I'm the CEO of CityCast, a podcast network that includes this show you're listening to, and also 12 other CityCasts in 12 other cities. And each one knows their city as well as your local team knows yours. So isn't it time we connected them? Don't you want to know how they're tackling their bike lane problems and housing challenges and sidewalk dog poop crises? That's why I'm hosting a new podcast called Your City Could Be Better. Because it could be. Every week, I'll chat with a different host in our CityCast network about what their cities are doing right and wrong, the weird things they're trying, and the surprising successes, so that we can all learn how to make our cities a little bit better. Listen to Your City Could Be Better on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, did you know CityCast Denver has a perks program? Every week, we're highlighting some standout deals from our favorite businesses in town to help you support local and save some money. It's a win-win. Here's a highlight from this week. Coming to Denver or planning a staycation? Reserve your Mile High experience box with Green Door. Choose edibles or flour, plus Colorado-made snacks and travel essentials, ready for pickup at our trusted local dispensary partner. Everything you need to elevate your trip and enjoy local experiences. And you can use our code DenverPerk for $10 off. These businesses are offering deals to CityCast readers and listeners because they know you're the most engaged and passionate Denverites. To see a full list, just visit denver.citycast.fm/perks. It's a great way to check out new restaurants, shops, and events in your city without breaking your budget. And I love that for you. And by the way, if you have a local business, you can offer your deals on our perks page too. Visit denver.citycast.fm/perks to learn more today. Okay. Let's move on. We have another music-related story. This is something you've been reporting on, John, quite a bit. The Ford Amphitheater and its noise complaints. We're moving way off South Broadway, further south all the way to Colorado Springs to talk about an outdoor venue situation. John, you recently reported that the Ford Amphitheater was named by Billboard as the top West Coast amphitheater in a new ranking of best concert venues in America, but it's only been open for less than 2 years. For folks that I have not been there, but it's an 8,000 seat venue. It's outdoor. It's been called a luxury venue, but this luxury venue is having serious struggles with surrounding neighbors and noise complaints. Can you give us sort of the quick breakdown of what's going on with the Ford Amphitheater?
Yeah, so they opened in fall 2024, and immediately there was opposition. I believe it was fall 2024. If I don't think I'm wrong.
Yeah, it was like August. I think it was August 2024.
Yeah, with like a run of shows from One Republic, who's from the Springs, who's a platinum selling, global band. And it seemed to go really well. And then within, hours, immediately hundreds of noise complaints. And those have just kept up since then. The owners of Ford Amphitheater, this company called Venu, VENU, and their CEO, J.W. Roth, they would say it's a small group of disgruntled neighbors. And the neighbors would say it's the majority of them, 43,000 people in this residential area affected by what they say is noise going way above the decibel limit. And this is relevant because on Thursday, they're going to hear a bill at the Capitol, which is about returning noise ordinances to local control. Right now, there's state limits. And there's going to be people testifying against Ford Amphitheater, and there's going to be people looking to restore local control to cities and municipalities. That's what Ford wants, because they currently have that. They have a variance from the city of Colorado Springs to be louder than some of the noise limits. And their opponents, and what's hilarious is their opponents filed a lawsuit. Their opponents run a website called Ford Hurts Families, and it's just this relentless attack.
Yeah.
Relentless attack on Venu, which, maybe you think it's justified or not. But the point is, they filed this lawsuit against them in January. And yeah, it was like 2 weeks later that Billboard named them one of the best venues. So, AEG, a huge promoter who kind of controls Denver, they're booking it. They're making money. They don't see any problem. And Venu's opening more venues across the country. They got a new one coming in Centennial. So they're making money. They probably see this as an annoyance, but it's definitely not going away.
I did see that the complaints were filed by like the same 90 people, like 650 complaints.
Venue always likes to point that out.
Well, I'm not on the Venue side. I'm not on anyone's side. I'm not on Colorado Springs side for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I was looking at how close the houses are to the venue, and they do seem really close. And I was trying to compare it to Red Rocks, and like, I don't know, the houses are higher up than Red Rocks is. Does noise work like heat where it rises or what? Because like, why do they hear it more? I don't know. The houses do seem closer, but
yeah, it's a complicated calculus. It's different for every environment. It has a lot to do with the height and material and location of walls. Venue has said they've put millions into mitigating sound issues. Meanwhile, the Ford Hurts Families folks are saying this person has a autistic son who, sits in a room and weeps and screams because of this. And they're just trying to make it in the most dramatic possible terms. And they're plying their case in the court of public opinion. And, maybe I and some other news media have contributed to that, but it's also a legit story because it's not going away. They've gotten the mayor involved. They've gotten city council involved, and it's just intractable. It's like they're both just at, loggerheads constantly.
I do like, John, how much accountability you take. You're like, I am part of the problem.
Well, I think there's reader interest. There's legit stuff to say. And I try to resist these narratives. But if you look at the media coverage as a whole, Ford Hertz families and these litigants are, trying to use the media to try their case in the media. And I think, they've gotten some credence from that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
I want to read some, you kind of alluded to this, John. I do want to read some of the claims that Ford Hertz Families has made about, they claim the venue has caused issues like, quote, triggering PTSD and traumatic brain injury, resulting in feeling unsafe in your own home, triggering autism and depression through an unescapable noise, creating dread for every concert night, families spending more than $36,000 on new windows in an effort to escape relentless noise. So again, these are claims. I don't know if they've been proven, but this was reported by Westward. You brought up Red Rocks, Miriam, and this has been a similar issue. I have a friend that works for Live Nation, and they do a lot of shows at Red Rocks. And he was like, I've talked about this on the show before. Sometimes people just call preemptively because they see there's a concert on the calendar and complain. And then he's like, that concert was canceled, so you're not complaining about a real thing. But, but like also, I don't know. I mean, this is that good question of like, how many people does it take for it to matter? Because it's like, a neighborhood or a couple dozen people up against a large entity with money and the ability to draw out a legal fight if they need to, I would assume. I mean, if they're opening venues across the country,
they have money. They
have money. But Miriam, I wanted to ask you, because your husband, Jacob, is from Colorado Springs. Is this, do you have any local insight? Is this like the vibe there? What do you think?
Well, I think the vibe is they love to complain and have, something to hate on. But I also saw like they're by the Air Force Academy, and like, don't jets fly all over the place like all the fucking time? So I don't know. I do think people hate Joy, and I also, maybe, this is so opinionated, but they also said some concerts I don't hear it at all, and some concerts I do, and I'm like, well, which ones?
I mean, the bass.
So
I would assume it's like Red Rocks. The big issue that came to light was the bass. Like the EDM shows were really, really pushing, I think, decibel limits compared to, say like, I don't know, when James Taylor performs there or something. But I don't know. It's I live in a very busy, loud area, but like I signed up for that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this was all existing when I got here. And I do think sometimes it's a different story when something is built there. John, has that been discussed? Like, do we know if the neighborhood was aware that, I mean, I'm sure they were aware that it was being built, but you don't always have to get, city council approval. Although this is a big
I thought you,
thing.
I thought you did for like a big venue like that, like no ordinance thing or hearing or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they had to get tons of permits and approvals to build it, including studies about that, about noise mitigation and impact, traffic studies, how it's going to change the flow around there. But Miriam has a point. If you live near the Air Force Academy, you live near a big stadium that has big football games. Bruno Mars is going to come play 2 shows. That's like a 40,000 seat venue. So it's like living across
dad is working security.
Yeah, it's like living across from Folsom Field in Boulder and being like, it's too loud. So I don't know. I think that when it comes to noise mitigation, Red Rock's neighbors have a point. But after the Ford stuff, I called around, Dick's Sporting Goods Park, when they host, the Fish Run, which they will again this year. It's leaving Folsom and going back there. They don't get noise complaints because they're out in the middle of nowhere. They're like on the moon.
Well, to be fair, the community that was supposed to be built around Dick's Sporting Goods Park in Commerce City never got built.
That's an excellent point. Yeah. Or, the UMS used to get noise complaints. We would walk around and give free tickets to neighbors to shut them up, to put it bluntly and crudely.
But it's like, it's happening. Why are you complaining? It's just people being annoying, and I can't not think that.
And to your point, Miriam, even at a small scale, Wax Trax, the original Capitol Hill one, they have shows outside sometimes. There is one person who lives, I believe, on Washington Street, who's been complaining about that and trying to get the city involved. And their owner, Pete tells me, like, she just will not give up. But one person making a lot of noise, or, some registered neighborhood organization, they killed all the concerts at City Park. There was going to be a big festival there, Chipotle Fest, Mile High Music Fest, killed by neighbors.
It's like these people literally need a hobby, because why do you have so much free time to like be in litigation about people experiencing joy and building community? I used to live in the apartments right in front of that Wax Tracks, and I would see like, people play outside, and you can't hear anything inside your
I lived
apartment
across the street.
unless you open the window. Yeah.
I lived at the Fountainhead
We were
at
probably
13th in
neighbors.
Washington. I didn't hear
Me
anything.
too.
Yeah, nice, dude. What a shithole. So
Such a shithole. So many mice.
yeah, but like, that those complaints, that kind of NIMBYism is justified sometimes, but there's right ways and wrong ways to do it. Look at Levitt Pavilion, which is kicking so much butt. Also 8,000 seats, but instead of luxury fire pits and all this, like, sell to like these upscale people who have all this money, it's free with a handful of concerts. They're constantly meeting with neighbors because they're surrounded by a residential area too. That's where the Grandoozy, the ill-fated Grandoozy Festival was. So I don't know.
I know they do a lot of ongoing outreach with the community, which I do think you're right is why Levitt is successful. Okay, we've got to move on. But if you are listening and you have an opinion on this, which I'm sure you do, I know folks live next to loud things all the time. I know folks have moved in somewhere and then something was built right next to you after you've moved in. And we'd love to hear what you think about noise pollution and or joy. The joy of music in Denver. Give us a call, 720-500-5418. You can text us or leave us a voicemail. Okay, our final topic today is all I know is it's called Miriam's Surprise. And Miriam, you have a hot take for me and John. What's up?
Well, I don't even know if it's a hot take. You'll both be on my side, but I was trying to get Gorillaz tickets, and they're going for $500 to start, which is ridiculous. I saw them at the Belco in 2011 for $50.
Gorillaz, I did too. It was a great show.
Yes, it was the Plastic Beach Tour. It was like the best one. And $500, like, get absolutely fucked. That's way too much.
It's obscene.
Yeah. But because we were talking about the Ford Amphitheater, I was like, Colorado Springs is like bumfuck nowhere. So I checked how much tickets are there. John Mulaney is coming to Red Rocks and there. His tickets are $70 for GA over there and like $100 to $300 at Red Rocks. So if you're looking for a deal, maybe go to Colorado Springs, because I might do that actually.
Gorillaz is like they're going to do a one show in Colorado.
They're going to do one show.
You're not going to get a second option, but I hadn't looked at tickets yet. I had just seen that announcement, and I actually got COVID the last time they were here, and I had VIP tickets. And so my husband, we got a friend, so I know, and I literally got photographs from my husband of Damon Albarn like standing next to him, and I was like,
"Shut
damn
up,
you, COVID!" But John, I don't know. What do you think? Would you pay $500 to see Gorillaz?
No, I wouldn't, and I can't. Like, there's no way I could afford that. I got 2 kids. I'm a journalist. My wife's a flight attendant. We're not rich, and I think that's true of a lot of people.
Who would you pay $500 to see?
If Bowie or Prince came back from the dead, maybe.
Fair,
but even then, I probably wouldn't be able to afford it. So I think there is enough demand right now that people will pay that. But it's nothing's really changing for the better. Live, you mentioned Live Nation, Bree. I have friends who work for them too. I've played some of their venues in my bands, but they made that backroom settlement with the DOJ earlier this week or late last week. And that was what nobody wanted. They wanted this aired on the public. They wanted hearings, ticket prices, Ticketmaster, all these debacles with on sales, going back to that Taylor Swift one. And Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser said yesterday, a couple days ago, we're not going to accept that. We're going to challenge that because we want better prices and more fairness in ticket buying for Colorado consumers. So that's interesting. States being in opposition to this federal settlement. Not too surprising. Live Nation's got deep pockets and lawyers, and they probably wanted to not air any of this stuff. And they got what they wanted. So
yeah, it's like Live Nation made several $1 billion last year.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say those $500 Gorillaz tickets are not going to go down. You know, next time Gorillaz plays here, it could be 800 or 1,000.
That's ridiculous. And I don't know too much about like the artists that have fought this, you know, that are like, oh, my tickets are not going to be by resellers, whatever. Like, how do they figure that out? Why can't every artist do that?
Honestly, it's a lot of work, and you have to be a certain level of artist to do that. And Gorillaz would be that level. I'm thinking of the comedian Josh Johnston did this recently, where he returned everybody's tickets because that was happening, and sort of, I think, created his own platform. You could only buy them through his website, but it takes a lot on the back end, and it's just this constant struggle, I think, for a lot of artists that are not Taylor Swift level, who is in her own stratosphere at this point. Pretty much anybody below that, if you want to control your ticket sales, you have to like create your own whole avenue. And it's so different from, you know, when Pearl Jam went head to head with Ticketmaster in the 90s. And like there was a gazillion local ticketing, you know, platforms. And I think about that time too, because there's this great video of Kurt Cobain where someone tells him that someone paid $18 or something to see Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
And he's like, $18. And I was like, he would either not be into that now, or he would be that arena rock guy that Dave Grohl was just making all that money on it. But it is I think the spike I'm thinking about, like, I saw Smashing Pumpkins at McNichols Arena for $27 in 1996. But what is the spike from $27 for an arena show to $500 for an arena show? Over 30 years, that does not feel like a fair, you know, rise with inflation. But I think it just takes us not buying tickets.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely all about demand.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's all about demand.
Certainly since the pandemic.
Totally.
Yeah, you know, live music came roaring back. And if these prices were starting to hurt sales, they would lower them, but they're not.
No, and that's the bottom line, is like, unless we stop buying tickets.
Yeah, and artists will say, well, we can't make money if they're any lower. You know, merch, touring, that's the only way we can make money. You know, we're not making money by selling.
No, the cut of tickets that a lot of artists get, even at really high levels, is pretty small.
Well, I think we're all thinking it, but the war in Iran is probably going to make it less of a demand for ticket sales.
I mean, there's a lot of...
We're all thinking it.
Exterior forces. We're going to wrap up there. Miriam, John, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, guys.
Oh, I forgot to plug Goodnight Denver.
Do you want to put it... Yeah, we're still taping.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Can I throw to you really quick?
Yeah.
Hey, Miriam, you're a comedian. What do you got lined up? Where can people see you?
Well, I actually am hosting Goodnight Denver next Friday, March 20th, 8 p.m. at Dude IDK Studios. We have Hannah Jones headlining. Catch her before she moves away to New York in like 2 weeks. So she's great. And the show always rules, you guys know. So come to that.
We'll put a link in the show notes. It's a great show. Like Miriam said, she invited us on, and we had a great time.
Yeah.
So thank you, Miriam. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed this show, why not take a minute to tell Ford Amphitheater owner J.W. Roth about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe to our morning newsletter at denver.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See you later. Cool. Am I done? Do I click leave? Okay.